So how do you feel about boundaries? It's a legitimate question. A lot of people come to me really struggling with this concept. They often feel guilty for setting boundaries, or they're not sure about even what a boundary is. They've heard the term, set the boundary, things like that, but that's really confusing for them because it's not something that's well taught in our society nowadays, right? They know that boundaries are really important to having healthy, constructive, supportive, and wonderful relationships, but why? And oftentimes they also know that they feel like their boundaries are being violated, but they can't quite pinpoint what the boundary is that's being violated. That's why I've created the Clarifying and Creating Your Boundaries free PDF. You can find out what your boundaries are, how to tune in to what the boundary needs to be, and how to effectively create and communicate your boundary so that way you stay in this place that respects you, respects the other person, but also gives you the confidence in your boundaries so that way you stop being gaslighted, disrespected, and unseen. Having your boundaries really clear gives you a voice and also helps the other person stay in accountability with themselves. So that's not a role that you have to take on anymore. So if you are ready to really have clear boundaries, to really understand what your role is in the boundary, and to give yourself some safety and some protection against people that might try to gaslight you or are just being disrespectful, go grab my Creating and Clarifying Your Boundary PDF at erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. And while you're there, let's schedule a call with me. Come have a chat with me so that way I can really, really help you master this particular skill, creating boundaries, clarifying the boundary, communicating that boundary, and so that way I can also help you have relationships that show up to support you, cherish you, and love you.
Hey everyone, it's Erin Anderson with the Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coaching. I am super excited that you have tuned in today. Let's get talking about how to heal from betrayal trauma. Welcome to the other side of the struggle. This is a podcast where we talk about trauma, how to heal it, and then how to take it and use it to unlock your mission and your potential, and to use it to live your very best dream life. When you're dealing with betrayal trauma, it can be hard to know how to heal it, how to stop the pain, and to know what your next steps are to take in your own life. And these are the questions that we try to answer here. Trauma has the ability to rob us of our joy and identity, which is why it's so miserable to experience. But with the right tools and with the right mindset, we can totally reclaim that joy and even use this trauma to strengthen ourselves so that way trauma does not knock us off of our joy again. Living your dream life should be a non negotiable, but trauma tends to try to negotiate that with you. And even though trauma is not something that we will completely ever be free of in our life, the pain is negotiable. This is why I created Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coaching and this podcast, is because I want my listeners, I want my clients to live, truly live free from the prison that trauma can put you in. I want you to live on the other side of the struggle.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Other Side of the Struggle. Guys, I am really excited to introduce you guys to Stephanie Wilden today. And as you guys know, that I'm kind of taking a step away from betrayal trauma coaching and getting more into relationship coaching for entrepreneur women because, there's a lot of relationship dynamic in that kind of stuff that once, is healed, these women can actually go off and create a lot more goals with their family and their finances and their creativity. So that's what I'm stepping into. But I really want to introduce you, like I said, to Stephanie, because she's someone that has been highly qualified and highly trained in the betrayal trauma field. She's totally an advocate for mamas. She's one of my favorite people ever. She's somebody that I've personally coached, and she's taken so much time and care and effort, and the transformation I've seen in Steph from the first day we've coached to now is phenomenal. And I know that she's somebody that you guys are definitely going to want to listen to, and she's somebody you're going to definitely want to connect with. And so I'm actually taking the booking links and I'm giving it all to Steph from this podcast as well, because I feel like she's going to be a better fit now for betrayal trauma coaching. So we've got a fabulous podcast planned for you guys. We're talking about the responsibility of healing. And I want to obviously welcome Steph to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Very long intro. She was sitting there wondering when I was going to stop talking, I could tell. But it's totally good. Like, you're gonna see Stephanie in the group. You're gonna see her a couple of times on this podcast. Like, she's very well qualified for what she's doing. And as I've been sitting here chatting back and forth with Steph, planning this episode, and this idea of the responsibility of healing, is it really up to me, is something that kept coming up. And she's got so much wisdom, and I definitely wanted to highlight that for you guys today. So, Steph, tell us a little bit about yourself, like whatever you want to say, and help people kind of get to know you a little bit.
Well, I'm Stephanie. I have never done a podcast in my entire life. I'm good. I guess I've kind of introduced myself in the group a bit. I have 5 kids. I've been married for 15 years, but with my husband for 17 years. I have gone through different betrayal traumas as well as pornography betrayal traumas. And I've been following Erin for like her whole journey, even though I didn't really know what I was getting into 4 years ago when we started this whole thing.
Yeah, you love it. You admit it.
So, let's see. What else? I'm a really big advocate for wanting to play, and my favorite thing in the world is to paint myself in mud and rinse it off in the river, which we've talked about, but it's my favorite, so I'm going to bring it up a few times.
It's all good. I've actually personally witnessed this, but I kind of love it a little bit because it's almost kind of like, it's so metaphorical, actually. You know what I mean? Like, actually, like letting the mud come off of you. Because like after she paints herself in mud, she goes and she gets down in the river and she lets it wash off. Like, I love it. I love
It's so nice because it feels calming and there's like all this peace to it.
Now watch, I'm gonna have like so many viewers from across the world going and painting themselves in mud now.
If they do, post pictures in the group so I can see it because it's so great. I love it. I think I brought it up in the meeting we had on the Facebook page, but I had my children, so my 5 children and my nephew in the river with me a couple weekends ago. Were all painted and just rinsing it off. It was great. I'm gonna kind of go through my journey a little bit then, because I feel like that's where I need to go. I feel like my life was kind of full of different traumas from the time that I was little, even maybe before I was born, until, forever. I was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression, panic attack disorder, and some other things that go along with that. And I was on probably close to 4 medications 4 times a day, trying to keep everything under control. And I'm going to go through kind of a weird story really quick on why I decided that I needed to really start to heal myself. It was, my husband is a detective and he was working overnight. And I was on medication that my doctors had prescribed that were mixed. They told me to mix together at night so that I could go to sleep. But instead, the medication that they put me on made me kind of like go into a panic to where I couldn't sleep. And I was feeling like everyone around me was like there was things like breaking into my house or whatever. And so I started to like hallucinate these things. And so I went to the doctor and they were like, oh no, you're gonna have to be off of this medication and we'll put you on a different kind. So then I switched to another kind, and finally I was like, none of this medication's working. I went to a therapist and I asked the therapist about it, and she was just like, well, are you sure that these things aren't happening? Like when it came to the pornography use, she was just like, are you sure that this isn't happening with your children and all this stuff? And it just wasn't what I wanted to hear.
Wasn't
She thought
helpful.
that it wasn't. She wanted she was trying to see if I needed to leave my spouse, and that's not what I wanted to do, because I knew that Kelton is seriously one of the greatest people on the earth. And so I knew that I didn't want that. And so then finally, like, it was like a last ditch effort was, I guess I'm going to message Aaron. And that is where I went.
Yay, I'm a last ditch effort. Yay.
And I feel like if I hadn't last ditched effort, I think I need to go backwards a little bit. I would have gone crazy. I would still be on medication, which, by the way, I'm not on any medication and I feel clearer than ever. I don't have to take any anxiety medication, which I had to for most of my life, was different medications for them trying to make me feel like a normal human. But it just was numbing, and now I'm clear. It's really strange to feel. That's my story, I guess, so far. What else? Is there
Well, I
anything,
love
any
it.
questions
Well,
from you?
Yeah, well, let me first of all say, like, I love it because it kind of gives me like this, huffing on your fingernails and like rubbing them on your shirt kind of a feeling, right? Because look what I can do, right? But in reality, um, I simply gave you some advice, right? That made all of the difference in your life. And you have completely run with that advice. And
Yep.
that's what's gotten you off of the medications. That's what's gotten you healed. And like, without going into a ton of detail, she's she's gone through some serious crap. Like, oh my gosh, you guys. And um and here's the reason why we're not going into a lot of the details is because it's stuff that you guys already understand. You understand the trauma, the betrayal side of things, right? And what you're doing is you're here in this podcast to hear and understand how to get out of it. And Steph is telling you that it's absolutely possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that she's coming to say today is the responsibility of healing. Why does it have to be up to me? Because I think that that's something that a lot of women are asking. Like, why do I have to do it all? Why is it always on me? Right? Because they're really feeling this way. Did
Mm-hmm.
you ever feel that way?
I did. I feel like everything that I felt was that I was the problem and I didn't know how to solve the problem. And I was making it tough for everyone else because I was blaming myself because I was the problem.
Mm.
But the truth was that I wasn't the problem. I was only a small part of some of the problems, not the full. It wasn't all on me, and I needed to heal my side of my problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing is like, and I think this is like a thing that we get so stuck in often, especially, you know, as wives healing from betrayal trauma, and even, you know, business owners. I have a few business owners listening to this podcast too, right? And by the way, shameless plug for Boundaried Boss Babes. Go check it out because that's my new podcast, guys. If you want to learn about how to earn money and if you want to learn about how to heal your relationships at the same time, like, go check that out because there's going to be some great content there. But back to this particular topic, you know, like, I think that we do as women take on too much. I think that because we're nurturers and we are mothers, it's so natural for us to try and control cogs in a sense that are not ours to control, right? Because what do we always hear? Like, control your children, control yourself, right? Control your home, control, 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 control. Like, that's a large message that we're constantly being fed, right? And so here your husband is, he's got this pornography habit or even addiction, right? And what do we immediately go to? Control it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm responsible for it. I'm responsible for my kids. I'm responsible for the house. I'm responsible for the bills. I'm responsible. I'm responsible. I'm responsible. I'm responsible. Therefore, because it's my responsibility, I have to control it. And so we're taking on this responsibility of something that is actually not ours.
So, sorry, something that popped into my head
Go
about
ahead.
that is one of the reasons that I think that in my mind, it was I had to make sure that everything was taken care of is because something that I was told by like one of my grandparents, which is a complete lie. I want everybody to know that this is a lie before I say it, was that that if your spouse was viewing things or they were going out and doing things, it was because you weren't doing your part as a wife, which is a complete
Oh,
lie. But it definitely was something that stuck with me that I wasn't doing my part, so nothing was good enough. And I felt like I needed to keep controlling everything around me to fix it so that it was working. Kind of like that part on Inside Out, too, I was telling you about earlier.
all right, my loves. I have some exciting news. Have you been really ready to put your trauma behind you, to understand your divine mission and purpose, to see how God sees you, and to see what you can actually put out into the world besides what is coming at you? Are you really ready for a major change and a major shift? If you are, I've got some really exciting news for you. August 3rd, 2024, I will be one of the many speakers speaking at the Divine Daughter event in Utah. You can go to My Divine Joy, that's capital My, M-Y, capital Divine, D-I-V-I-N-E, capital Joy, Joy.com, mydivinejoy.com, to get your tickets now. Come learn about how to heal from your betrayal trauma. Come learn how to heal life. How to take your emotions and make them into a masterpiece of intelligence. To pick up the pieces of your shattered life and to see God's hand in all of it. To finally make sense of why this is happening to you and the message that you have in all of it. If you're ready to make the major change, go grab your tickets, mydivinejoy.com, and come see us for this massive, fantastic one-day event. And of course, come say hi. while you're there. mydivinejoy.com. Yeah. Talk about that for a second, because you were talking about anxiety and Inside Out too. And I don't know how many of the listeners have watched it or
Or if we're
not,
allowed
but
to even say that on a podcast. I really don't
you
know.
can talk about it. We're not taking credit for it.
Well, on Inside Out 2, there's a scene where Anxiety, the little character she's teeny tiny, but she's full of like anxiety, and she is like spinning in circles around the table that is supposed to be the girl's life, and she's just spinning around it because she had basically broken the girl, and she was trying to fix her, and so she was like putting her back together, but she couldn't put her back together because she was so anxious that she needed to have some way to like step back from the
Control it,
anxiety.
right?
And
Like she's looking at
yeah,
all the possible outcomes and like this
exactly. Yeah.
must be the best outcome, right? And I have to control this outcome.
Mhm.
This is the way we have control, right? That's what
Yep.
she was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of our brains go when we're feeling all that overwhelm and that anxiety is, okay, well, if I do this differently, then this will change. And if I do this differently, then this will change. And you're like looking at every possibility, and you really are in that anxious circle around that table going in circles.
Yeah, seriously. And what's really interesting, and this kind of puts us into this next piece that we were talking about, is when she was in that circle, what does she start doing? It's my fault. It's my fault.
Mhm.
It's my fault. I've broken it. I've broken it. I've broken it. And so she started going crazy. I gotta fix it. I gotta fix it. I gotta fix it. It's all my responsibility, right?
Yep.
And so she gets into the cycle of self-blame, right? Blaming, and I feel like we do that same thing. Like we blame ourselves for other people's choices, actions, and we wonder if something's wrong with us if we're not
Mhm.
enough, right? I was actually just talking about this with a client today. This idea that she felt so much game. Hello. She felt so much guilt and shame. My gosh, let's just like shove everything together in one word, right? And
Well.
not fortunately, game is actually a word, but that's not what we're doing. We're not playing a game. But like, there's so much shame and guilt in that she was feeling for the results of someone else, right? Because she could see that she had been a piece of the result, right? But what was happening to her in that moment when this result was taking place was she wasn't whole,
Right.
right? And yet she was coming back, like as her current self, going back to that past self and like judging. Like, how could you? How could you? How could you? And could you, like, it just totally perpetuated that cycle of guilt and shame, right? And so this is why I'm saying, like, this is where we get to start doing the opposite. If we're in that cycle of blame, we have to do the opposite, which is ownership, right? Well, that's that fifth pillar. And we got talking about some of these different key pieces.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and talk about each one. And you mentioned self-care. Like, how does self-care get you out of this, I feel like I'm responsible for their life, their results, everything, and more into a peace with yourself?
So for me, something that I found that was like that I was missing was definitely self-care. Like I felt like I couldn't take that time to make sure that I was taken care of because I needed to control the dishes or the children, or I would worry if I took care of myself for even like 5 minutes that like I'm going to use the word implode, which sounds kind of crazy, but like that the whole world was going to like implode and I was going to like mess everything up that I was trying to build inside of
Mm-hmm.
my home. Like I would worry that I had all these worries that like my spouse would have problems because I needed to take care of myself, and that wasn't fair that he had to work and I had been with the kids, and so to throw him into that, it was really hard because you have like, you're trying to figure out how to self-care, but you also don't know how. So then I started making the self-care menus, which I've talked about with you.
Mm-hmm. You need to
And
post those, by the way, in the group. They're pretty
yeah,
awesome.
so I started making them like these self-care menus because something I found was I didn't know how to do self-care. I didn't know what I enjoyed doing. So I had to like explore what do I like doing? And for self-care, I found that I really like bubble baths. And then I realized my tub was broken, but I didn't know it was broken because I didn't take time for self-care. But now I'm like I got my house, I had to get my house completely redone and my bathtub got fixed. And I'm like, this is the best self-care ever.
Oh, seriously, bubble bath and a book and a few like favorite drink and chocolates off to the side.
Hmm.
Heck
Right there.
yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I agree. You know what else makes it really awesome? Is like turning all the lights down in the bathroom really low and then turning on like a blue light or like a red light or different color
Right.
light.
I have
So good.
oh, what are those? I have lilies, like like lily pads, but like the flower of the lily. And then I have candles that go into the lilies. They're like these waterproof candles that when you put them in, they light up the bathtub and it's just these flower petals, but it's so cool. I love that.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah,
You one-upped me on that one.
it's beautiful. Well, I found them in the pool section at Walmart one day. They
And
were
you're
like,
like,
I was
snap.
like, I need those in my life. I'm putting them in my bathtub. Like,
I
yeah.
love it. But you know, this is what's cool about self-care is you get to like be like, I need that in my life, right?
Hmm.
And it's like not a irresponsible choice anymore, right? Now, of course, like don't go spend all your money. I'm not saying that. And she's not saying this either, but we're saying that you're realizing that that is actually taking responsibility.
Hmm.
And you're telling me too, like the opposite of self-care is self-destruct. Like, did you hear that language? Like everything imploding
Yeah.
in on you, right? If you didn't take, if you took the time for self-care, you felt like everything would implode, but it was imploding.
Right. But it didn't, but it felt like it was like it, even though it already was all around me, like things were going wrong. If I took, oh my goodness,
Self-time,
I
self-care.
took time for self-care, then it's even going to get like everything was just going to get worse. But really, really, it didn't. I was able to do it. It took me a really long time. I also found that I like to eat Mexican food alone because my kids will just complain. So I'll go to Mexican food by myself sometimes because I just really love Mexican food.
But you know, the other thing cool is it's teaching you self-love. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like to really like I love being by myself. Like I love my kids. I love hanging out with my kids, right? I totally do. But I also really just like hanging out with me, right? Like I really crave those times and those
Hmm.
moments. And I think this is what self-care gives you because it reminds you to be responsible for you.
Ooh, also big secret. If you have trees, get a hammock. I'm
There's a
not
self-care.
joking.
I'll,
My
I'll tell you,
favorite.
I'll tell you a little secret. My kids are getting hammocks this year for Christmas,
Oh,
so
fun. I want to go
yes.
camping and just do hammocks next time. I
There's
have
a hammock.
tents, but I feel like that'd be so nice.
There's a
Maybe not
hammock
in the rain
tent.
though.
No, there is a hammock tent. I'm not even
See,
joking.
maybe I need it.
I'm sending you the Amazon link. I am totally promoting Amazon stuff on this podcast today, guys. No, I love it. Okay, the second piece, and I remember like talking about the play aspect of the seven pillars, right?
Mhm.
Because you constantly were saying I feel so overwhelmed, and I was like, let's plug and play, right?
Mhm.
And holy Hannah, that's like a major shift. Like that's when things really like
Yes.
clicked
Yes.
for you. So tell us about that.
Okay, so play. I- I'm gonna tell you guys first what happened. Well, I'm not gonna tell you what happened. I'm gonna tell you what happened though. Um, no, so I thought that when I started coaching, like when I actually started coaching with other people and I was like working with them, I was like, not sure how to ask how people played, and so my question always seemed inappropriate because I'd be like, "How do you play with yourself?" And then I would have to like rewind, and I'd be like, "Let me explain it a little bit better before you answer that." So, I want it to be known that like if you hear that question, it is not at all what I intended it to be. You're welcome.
How do you like
Um,
to play? Like,
yeah, it was
play.
so bad. The first like few I realized what I was saying and oh man. So, my play.
This is why I love her, you guys. Like, oh my gosh, you're gonna love her so much.
Okay, so play. I learned I didn't so she asked me, "What are ways that you take time to play?" And I'm sitting there like I don't play. Like I clean the house or I go and play a board game with the kids or like things like that, things that I'm doing with the kids. I didn't realize that you could just like go play alone, like do things for yourself. So I started my biggest change was painting. I didn't know I could paint. I didn't know I could sketch. I bought sketch pads. I bought paint. I have so much paint in my house, like so much paint. There's cupboards full of paint. My kids finally got into it and I'm like, but so much paint. And um I love it. I maybe I'll post pictures in the group later, but there's this one painting that was my favorite. Actually, I have two paintings that were my favorite. One was like that like it's the Starry Night, but it's with sunflowers. It has
Mm-hmm.
like this made out of sunflowers, and that one was one of my favorites. And the other one was it was called like drip painting, and you just get the brush as wet as you want, and then the paint drips off of it, and it looks like sunflowers that are melting. It's really cool. Those are my two favorites. But as I was painting, I decided I would I was following YouTube videos and I'm like I didn't like it because it was too difficult to follow and I'd have to pause it every 5 seconds because I just wanted to get the picture perfect. But then I realized that like I wanted to draw more of like what I was feeling or I wanted to paint more of what I was feeling. So the biggest thing that I remember painting on my own was a little baby tree. And I don't know if you remember it, Erin,
Mm-hmm.
but it was this
I
little
do.
tiny like baby tree, but it was stuck underneath of like around it was all black and then there were like colors that were like coming out of the sky and it was like it looked crazy, but in my mind when I saw what I was drawing, it was this little tree that was trying to learn how to grow and it was trying to like also get protected by like these colors. It was really interesting and that was something that really spoke to me was taking time to draw something that maybe I was feeling and that was the biggest one that I can come back to.
Yeah. Well, and that's the coolest thing too about like the play aspect is like for you, the art became metaphorical,
Mhm.
right? Um, like the melting sunflowers. I know like you kind of brand yourself a little bit with sunflowers and sunflower
Mhm.
colors and like sunflowers are your thing. Like there's a sunflower in your picture right now, right? Right there, yes.
Yeah,
And
there's 2 or 3 up there.
so sunflowers are like a thing for you. And I know like I love the idea of like the melting sunflower because like it's melting and then like growing something different, right? Like
Mhm.
this idea of rebirth is kind of what I get from that, you know? And you're catching those things
Mhm.
as you play. You know what I mean? You're
Mhm.
hearing those things as you play. And I'm actually thinking again of another client and I'm like, oh, I need to introduce this subject again here. But like my brain goes in a million different directions. I love it. But like the thing that's so powerful about this, right? And you're seeing this and you're saying this is it's like when you have these types of troubles and these struggles and these betrayals and you feel like you can't do anything, like you're stuck,
Mhm.
right? It's not a find a solution type of a problem, it's a create the solution type of a problem. And when
Right.
you get into that play, like that's where you find that creative energy.
Right. Yes. I feel like as I was creating different things in my life, I was creating more of a solid foundation for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seriously. I love it. I love it. So the last piece here is also curiosity. And I remember also like introducing this piece to you as well, like getting this getting curious about like why you're feeling the way you're feeling and like thinking the way you're thinking and like why you feel like you have to be
Yeah,
responsible
a lot
for
of big
everyone else.
questions.
A lot of big questions, right? And you actually took them seriously and you started thinking about them like this was another big shift for you. So tell me about this.
So I know that I have a journal somewhere. I have a lot of journals right now. It's bad.
I
Kelton just
have,
keeps buying me more. So
yeah, I'm gonna say I hope I don't offend anybody because they're gonna be like, I don't have any journals. But I'm noticing like the people I work with that are really, really emotionally smart have like 12 different journals by their
it's
desk. And
really bad. I'm
I
just
do
gonna say
too.
that.
I have like a lot of journals, yes.
It but what I would do is I would write like 3 pages. I'm gonna go with 3 pages because it was always so much, but I would write like 3 pages of writing and then I would like relook at it and then I would highlight. I would highlight things inside of my journal that I had seen and then I would go to the next page and I'd like write a question based on like write a deep question based on like whatever that highlighted section meant and then I would write an answer to that question and then it would just like I would just reread it and there would be parts of it where I'd write like 3 pages and I'd have like 10 questions about like why I felt that way or how I even got there or whatever. And it was something that was a big shift for me because I was able to like really analyze my thought processes and even my feelings because I have a really hard time expressing feelings. I'm doing a lot better at that now, but
You are. You
but
are.
I had a really hard time with it. Like but I really, really loved being able to go through and look at the questions that I had for myself and try to figure out like who I was and where I was going because I feel like I was very lost
Mhm.
before.
Yeah, because I noticed like you started to anchor really deeply
Mhm,
once you got into that curiosity kind of flow, right?
mhm,
Like this new you really started to step out and you've continued to grow
mhm.
in this self-love, right? And so like instead of choosing into this self-betrayal that I think so many people often do when they've got really, really difficult relationships, um, you chose into curiosity and it anchored you,
Mhm.
right? It totally
Right.
anchored you.
Well, and on the same note of self-love, something that I also realized I had to do was because I had a lot of negative I would have a lot of negative self-talk even in my journal in real life like it was bad. So I started flipping it. Like every time that I'd say something that was negative about myself, I would like have to flip it and like say 5 things that were great about myself or whatever because and that really helped like change my mindset a bit on like the thought processes I was having about myself.
Yep, yep. And it so does. Ah. All right, Steph. I am excited that everybody kind of got to meet you today. And like I said, from now on, um, when you schedule a call off the podcast, you guys will be going into chatting with Stephanie, and having a one-on-one call with her because guys, like she gets it. And I hope that you guys have heard that today, listening to her, like talking about like self-care, the play, the curiosity, and these cogs that worked for her
Mhm,
because now she's not feeling like she's dependent upon, the medication and dependent upon like the opinions of other people, but now she's really living life fully. And I think we can also say that you appreciate yourself, and because you appreciate yourself more, you also appreciate your marriage more
mhm.
and your husband, right? How did that
For sure.
change things for the two of you?
Um, well, we started, so I'm not sure exactly what everything I'm going to say, but he ended up seeing my change, like seeing the changes I started making, and then he got interested in life coaching. So then he started getting life coached, and it opened up interesting conversations. Like we have like more deep, meaningful conversations, and like we started playing together more. And I know that sounds really funny, but like people are always talking about how goofy we are together because like randomly, like one of us might like walk up and smack the other one on the butt or something just in front of people and then run away and laugh and then like get chased around. Like we play tag. I don't know. But um the like it was like this weird comfort that like came from like really getting to know who the other was and where they were going, what their mind really was thinking was eye-opening.
Well,
And eventually he wants to do it too, so you know.
and you end up not taking things like everything so seriously.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one aspect
great.
I love about that.
I just want to point out one more thing really quick about the something I had to do to move myself forward was to really like let go of that control. I wanted to bring that up really quick.
Mhm.
So for example, all of his like YouTubes or his like YouTube accounts and his internet accounts or whatever were on my phone so I could see things. Everything. And it was like really damaging and hurtful to me. Like I feel like seeing it like that was more damaging and hurtful to me. So everything that popped up would pop up on my phone and I had to untether that. I had to break all of those ties in order for myself to move forward as well.
Yeah, you did. I did too. You know, I remember actually handing Ruben his phone one day, and I was like, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it, but I'm not going to let you do it here. Like, just please go somewhere else. Right? And luckily, like, he honored that, but, you know, I think if he hadn't, I would have been like, okay, I'll go somewhere else, right? And I think he knew that. But, and I think this, like, opens up a really good discussion about boundaries to have. And so why don't you and I chat about some of the different boundaries we had in our next podcast? Does that work?
That'd be great. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. All right, you guys. Welcome, Steph. It's awesome that you're here.
I'm excited to see where this all goes.
Oh, I think everybody's going to love you as much as I do. So anyway, you guys, I'm really excited for you guys to get to work with Steph and get to meet her, and benefit from her just fantastic, bubbly, fun energy and her just greatness.
Pretty new, isn't it?
I don't know. I think you can do it.
Oh, I meant my bubbliness.
Oh, that's not new. No, that's always been there.
Just the quirkiness. We're good.
The quirkiness. All right, you guys. Until the next time, we'll see you on the other side. Bye. Okay, so I've got a question for you. Have you joined my free Facebook group or Instagram page yet? If you haven't, go and do that. And this is the reason why. I always post my freebies, updated information, and all kinds of goodies for my community in that page. I'm also really active. I post videos. I answer questions. So if you guys really, really want to get in and interact with me, go like me on Facebook, go join my group, The Other Side of the Struggle, Healing from Betrayal Trauma. Come find me on Instagram, Erin Anderson, Betrayal Trauma Coach, and come follow me because I always have something good there just for you, my audience, and I love connecting with you there. I also post anytime that I have groups going on. I talk sometimes about my programs. So if you guys are interested in working with me or even just following me and getting as much free content as you possibly can, go hang out in my group. Go connect with the ladies that are there. Also come and join Immune and Unashamed for those married couples that are following me, because in that group, me and my business partner, Kaisen Kidd, are also talking and offering some great content. Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today and listening in on this podcasting episode. Don't forget to tune in next week. It's gonna